Right then, let's hop straight back in. Yo, what's going on, friends, and welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I do hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that. And welcome back to Chelsea News. That's right, it's the daily series here on Football Therapy where I reflect on what's been said about Chelsea Football Club, giving you my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on it. But as always, more importantly, asking for yours. In today's video, we're going to be looking into The Athletic's latest article, a Q&A, giving us some answers on Chelsea's financial situation and indeed the situation with UEFA. I've got it prepared, I've not read it yet, so I'm going to react organically to the questions and answers with you guys, and hopefully we're going to learn some interesting insights. And also, of course, Enzo Fernandez was withdrawn from international duty with Argentina. He's got like a swelled knee or something like that. Hopefully not too serious. He has played a lot and he runs a lot every single game, more than any other Chelsea player, by the way. So if we need to rest him a little bit longer, I want to speak about Andre Santos, because this Brazilian baller is being overlooked a little bit. Yeah? We're going to get into that. Before we jump into it all, a big thank you for joining me here today. If you enjoy the content, superb, great. You're all welcome to hang out. You're all welcome to subscribe if you want to. Of course, it's the road to 200,000 subscribers, which is nothing short of superb. So thanks for joining me. Thank you for dropping a like, dropping those hype points. Is the hype points going to stick around on YouTube? I'm not so sure. But maybe. Anyway, new transition. Check this out. Let's get into it. Alright, so I do want to speak a little bit about Enzo Fernandez starting off in this video. Like I said in the intro, he runs more than any other Chelsea player, which might come surprising for many people because he's not like fast. And when a player is not fast and you can't see them like moving around the pitch quickly, I guess you don't necessarily think of them covering lots of ground. But he does, and he's very important, Enzo Fernandez. He's Chelsea's vice-captain. He scores goals, he assists, he sort of leads for Maresca, and he might be absent, which could be a blessing for young Andre Santos. Now, how old is Santos? Like 21 years old? Still very, very young. Had 18 months at Strasbourg. Very, very successful. Wore the captain's armband there. Scored loads of goals from midfield and was recognised as one of the best midfielders in Liga. Not young midfielders, straight up midfielders. I think he had double digits for non-penalty goals in the league alone from midfield. I'm going to show you some of his stats in just a moment, but Enzo Maresca, the Chelsea manager, says he sees him more as that Enzo Fernandez role. So this is the perfect opportunity to bring him in. If you want to, offer some relief to Caicedo, Lavia's coming back in now. I know he's not ready to start, but he's a really good player that Maresca rightly sees as more defensive than Andre Santos. So this is the perfect opportunity for a fresh and fit Andre Santos, who didn't play for Brazil for like protective measures, to come in and be to have the opportunity to show what he's all about, which is immense quality. Take a look at a couple of his stats I've prepared. First of all, look at his understat comparison from last season. Santos is green, Fernandez is blue. Now, this is really strong from Enzo in terms of creative numbers, like key passes per 90 and expected assists per 90, as you can see in the bottom and bottom left of the graphic. But Santos is a goal scorer. Now, actually, this comparison alone kind of does Andre Santos dirty a little bit, because the truth is, yeah, he scores more goals per 90 than Enzo Fernandez, well, nearly twice as many, but also, he's got amazing defensive numbers. Now, Understat's not showing this comparison here on this graph, so I want to remind you what Andre Santos can do by showing you some of his statistical strengths on FBref from the last year. So this will be a little bit in the Premier League for fleeting minutes he's played, but a lot at Strasbourg as well. As you can see, from midfield, he is in the 99th percentile for goals, expected goals, and non-penalty expected goals. So he is a goal-scoring midfielder, and we saw that from the understat comparison, but look at this, guys. Look at the stats underneath the top two goal-scoring stats. Tackles won, 98th percentile. Tackles in the middle third of the pitch, 96th percentile. Goals against, goal shots, goals, but then tackles and touches in the defensive third. So he's not just in the final third, finishing moves and getting on the end, trying to do a Frank Lampard. He rarely gets dispossessed, and his pass completion for long is good. These are all really, really strong defensive metrics. Now, when you think of Enzo Fernandez, you don't really think of a CDM. I know he's played deeper for like Argentina, but I think that's more as a sort of playmaker role, you know, deep line playmaker, a regista, if you will. But we've sort of learned at his time at Chelsea, Enzo Fernandez, further up in the pitch as a sort of like box crashing number 8, that's his best position. And we know from, you know, the running stats, he works very hard for the team and still presses really well and does track back. But the defensive stats from Andre Santos, I trust Santos much more as a defensive midfielder than I do Enzo Fernandez, though he scores more goals than Enzo Fernandez. It's food for thought. Now, I'm not saying he's better and he should start ahead of him if they're both fit. But what I'm saying is, people are not thinking about or recognizing this immense quality from Andre Santos. He could come in. Lots of people think he should be a starter for Chelsea. He could be as good as Moises Caicedo in his own way. You put those two together in a midfield, it's over if they both reach their potential. Like, we're kind of forgetting about him a little bit. So he needs to be given a chance by Enzo Maresca, and this is perfect. You know, could be the perfect opportunity. Look, we will see him. We'll see him in cups. We'll see him in certain league phase games in the Champions League. We'll see him, but I think he needs like a proper chance and a chance to start and gain like relationships and chemistry with like the first team players, like the first choice 11, to show, yeah, I can, you know, I can sort of hang with these guys and I can make Chelsea better, mate. Do you know what I mean? So let me know your thoughts on that. Please do leave them down in the comment section below. Now we're going to jump on over to this article from The Athletic. So this is a Q&A article from Chris Weatherspoon speaking about general footballing questions, but we're going to hop down to a couple of Chelsea questions he was asked. Question: do you have any insights into Chelsea's settlement with UEFA, and will it be impacting their transfer business over the next few years? Are there any Premier League teams at risk of a similar fate after the large net transfer spend this summer? He says, at the risk of pointing you somewhere else, The Athletic has covered this in a couple of spots in recent weeks. He links another article giving depth on the UEFA rules generally and covered the restrictions placed on Chelsea when it came to registering new players for the European competition. In short though, the settlement agreement places limits on Chelsea's losses under the football earnings rule across each of the next 3 seasons. With those campaigns each assessed individually rather than on a 3-year rolling basis, as usually is the case under that rule. In 28-29, the final year of the settlement agreement, Chelsea are required to be within the standard 3-year rolling limits that other clubs must adhere to. Sounds complicated, but what it is, and what I understand generally from listening to other people, UEFA are trying to get Chelsea in line in terms of how they run. It's different than the PSR rules in the Premier League, where it's very sort of like, you know, clear-cut financial numbers in and out. And of course, UEFA don't account for selling the women's team to yourself. They don't allow for selling the hotels to yourself. That was all like Premier League, FA, Financial Fair Play, or PSR. UEFA don't work like that, and it's more squad based and like what players you're registering. It's a little bit more complicated, but it does sound like they are working with Chelsea, and it's more about, there's like leniency there, like sort yourselves out, so by the end of this period you are working within our rules, and you know, there might be like a little bit of leniency, a slap on the hand here and there, a little fine there. That's what I understood so far listening to certain other journalists, but let's read on. In terms of impact on transfer business, we've already seen Chelsea sell in large numbers this summer, and they were generally big sellers anyway. That's linked directly to the rule compliance. The club have carried huge operating losses in recent years, while revenues are growing again as a result of winning the Club World Cup and of course the return to the Champions League. Chelsea still need to sell players and get profits to aid the bottom line. It's highly likely they will continue to be active sellers in the coming seasons. So Chelsea always sold players, and we did need to sell players to be complying with the rules. Fortunately, we are good sellers. It's part of the plan. The plan worked, and there is still money, that's what the briefings are telling us, to make purchases. It's not just constantly sell forever and not buy new players. They will always buy new players, but they will keep selling. Of course, we're hoping the likes of Disasi and Raheem Sterling and maybe some loanees that sort of shine and platform themselves, they get sold. But then you start looking around at who's left and you're like, okay, well, I like that guy. You're gonna sell him? We keep talking about this, the untouchables, and we've all got our own ideas of who's in that sort of list and who's not. But people will have favourites, I think, in the coming transfer windows that end up getting sold and they won't be happy about. There will be turbulence, but hopefully there will be trophies, and where there's trophies, there's acceptance. Right, next question. How is Chelsea's strategy really working out? Initially it seemed madness, but they now potentially seem to be selling very well. I say potentially as they spent good money on players they're now selling. So how much did the players they've sold actually cost them? Are they actually onto something clever, and are they making money from it? It's a tricky one because no reasonable assessment of Chelsea's recent business can be made without acknowledging that they've breached both UEFA's main financial rules last season and have to employ some pretty, shall we say, inventive methods of avoiding doing so domestically too. The women's team sale and the hotel sale. Inventive indeed. We've just spoken about that. I've no doubt taking some form of punishment was part of the plan. Brackets, they spent so much, it wasn't a minor oversight, end brackets. It's hard to say that is a strategy deserving of extra praise. Whether it's working, there's two answers. For now, yes it is working. Long term, let's see. They're basically employing a player trading model on steroids, and this summer around 300 million in sales has gone a long way to ensuring they stick to the settlement agreement with UEFA. As we were reported last month, sources with knowledge of the situations expect Chelsea to comply with the settlement agreement this season. Yeah, I mean, they seem to think they're fine. That's the briefing to all the journalists. Chelsea go, you know, I mean, right from the beginning. To be fair, I need to shout out Liam Twomey, Chelsea correspondent of The Athletic that we are citing right now. Early doors, he sort of learnt about the plan. I mean, I'm not right at the beginning when Todd Boehly was trying to sign Ronaldo, spending 50 million on Sterling, buying Aubameyang, Koulibaly for Tuchel, like just going on a shopping spree, giving them all really high wages before they came up with the plan. You know, the Cole Palmer, the Steval, the whatever, the Joao Pedros, the Liam Delaps, the low age, spreading costs and, across amortization, all the fun, sexy stuff we've been covering in recent years. But when they came up with a plan with the sporting director's early doors, Liam Twomey reiterated this a few times on podcasts, whether it be Athletic podcast or the Straight Out of Cobham dedicated Chelsea one, and indeed right about it, the front-loaded pain. Basically putting a lot of money in early doors, setting up this sort of portfolio, getting a young team together that they believe will develop long term, also slightly breaching the rules, already having dialogue with UEFA, the governing bodies, opening the books to them early doors. We know UEFA are constantly battling, they were constantly battling City. Their main sort of gripe with them was they didn't open the books. Chelsea were really honest, transparent, and they were willing to take slaps on the wrist and fines, and that kind of was part of the plan. It's all like the stuff we're reacting to now, they seemingly feel comfortable about it because they've known about it months/years ago. This was always going to happen. There's presumably no stress behind the scenes, hopefully, for everyone involved, including us fans. Chelsea have long been some of the best sellers in football, in part because they accumulate so many players in the first place. The likelihood is they're going to keep having to be very good sellers for a while, yet the club make massive operating losses and need those sales to reduce an overall loss. The especially important for the near future is the £76.5 million profit from the sale of the hotels and car park in the 23-24 season. It drops off their Premier League PSR calculation this season. Like I said before, UEFA disallowed them, so it's never been part of their calculation. While the best part of £200 million profit from selling their women's team will fall off next year. In fairness, the plan appears to be to continue with high player turnover and use the transfer sales as an extra income stream, much as Chelsea have done for many years now. Whether they're able to do it at that level, it remains to be seen. I'm conscious I've actually mentioned one thing that really should be the barometer of success: bringing home trophies. Chelsea are the reigning Conference League champions and Club World Cup champions, so we'll doubtless say that they're winning on that front as well. Whether everyone else agrees, especially relative to how much they've spent and the legitimacy of the latter tournament in particular, is a bigger argument. Trying to slag off the Club World Cup. It's just boring, isn't it? The Club World Cup, of course, I think in the future, in 20 years, I think they'll look back on this new Club World Cup how seriously teams take it because of the money involved, and it will be more respected. I mean, it's already, the old iteration was already heavily respected by South American teams. Culturally, it's their like Champions League final. They take it so seriously. That's why when you've got players like Caicedo, Fernandes, the Brazilians, it means so much to them that Chelsea won it. It's an amazing opportunity for them. They loved playing against, and the high-profile final, beating the European champions PSG, who really wanted to win it themselves. So much so, there was fights and the manager was like throttling one of our players. It wasn't a pre-season friendly. It does have legitimacy, and it will be reflected on more positively as time goes by, I think. Conference League, of course, you had to win it, you're in it. I think just as big as those other two was top four. When you needed top five, you got top four, you comfortably qualified for the Champions League. We're talking about financials. That's just as important, and of course there was a big financial injection from the Club World Cup. And indeed, theoretically profiling. I just want to end on this though. Reference again, huge operating losses, which is two things, mainly, yeah. Obviously the absence of the Champions League recently, but hopefully that's sort of within our immediate control, just being better on the pitch. But it's Stamford Bridge's limitations in terms of financial revenue. It's not big enough and whatever. And the sponsor. But the sponsor's completely on Chelsea. They need to get their house in order. They need to get their sort of financial marketing people in order. That's the story that seems to be going on. It does seem comical now, but I've done videos on it and I can't keep just making more content going, what is happening? This is dumb. I mean, what is happening? This is dumb, of course, but here we are. And anyway, I believe in time, hopefully this will settle. I mean, they can't just rely constantly on an army of players in and out. They will keep trading. It is part of the model, but probably not to the extent that we've had recently, because there needs to be some settled calmness eventually. But it sounds like, despite, needs for change and operating losses, Chelsea do feel comfortable that they won't get any serious ramifications and sanctions. UEFA does work slightly differently to the PSR. They believe they're totally safe from PSR, and they believe they're working with UEFA. Open dialogue, good communication. Communication's key, a good relationship so they can navigate any serious wrongdoings. And I think what UEFA's like with Ceferin. They'll want the Club World Cup champions to be in their competitions. They won't want to ban them, and they'll want them to, Chelsea, South West London, they want them to be represented in their competition, and provided the books are open, they're, collaborating and trying to get their house in order. I think UEFA will be cooperative with Chelsea. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Please leave them down in the comment section below. Very grateful for that. Thank you for your support as always, for liking and subscribing. Daily videos here, of course, on Football Therapy, so I would be grateful for your subscribership. And other than that, I'm out, man, so enjoy the football. Peace.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo, chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, baby.